Oh, that John Trafone music gets me all pumped up. Secret, by the way, this is music by the John Trafone Trio. It's just music by John Trafone. Like there was no trio. Although I know Mike's in the shot with him. They're lifting the latch and the little door, but that's just the John Trafone.
I'm more of a producer.
Yeah, you're more of the producer. That's right. Amy and I are just I don't know, we're the fan club, something like that. I have other thoughts, but it's a family show. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Community Chorus Show. I'm Ryan Saunders, along with Amy Blanchette and Michael J. Freitas right here. You might notice we're missing the Andrews today. We don't know where the Andrews are. We seem to have lost the Andrews. We're Andrewless, which means if we have no artistic director of the chorus of Westerly or of the upstage players, we can program both of the artistic programs for the next month because they're not here. So
for a small donation, we'll put that at the bottom.
Small donation. We're just doing all cats, just cats straight across the board. Cats up there, cats down here, cat T-shirts. I don't know. We've been talking about the chorus in general of as we are growing the footprint of our young persons program, because we're really wait till you see the stuff we're about to announce. But having because chorus of Westerly, you can take the first letter and what does it spell? Cow. And I keep thinking of the little cow chorus or these little cows, anyway, I don't know, cats, cows, it doesn't matter.
Music and movement.
Music, right?
Music. I can say
see, Pat, you trademark that right away, Mike. You can trademark it wherever you are, and I'll trademark it wherever I am. Look at that save. Anyway, well, friends, welcome to the Community Chorus Show. We're so delighted to have you here with us today. The weather is getting nicer. The sun is shining brighter. Things are opening up again. Even at the chorus, we're ramping things up with the kids. We're now back to 2 days of rehearsal a week with the kids coming in. Actually 3, but each kid can come in for 2 days and they're virtual lessons. So as things are improving, we're getting to get back there. I was just saying that we're getting closer to opening the chorus up for some regular business activity again soon, which is really, really exciting. Mm-hmm. This past Monday night was one of the first Monday nights where I left the building at 10 o'clock, which you might think, why is he leaving at 10 o'clock? Well, in the olden days, rehearsal would end 9:30, in the olden days being a year and a half ago. And so I would stay through rehearsal and then drive home to where I live in Massachusetts, because I live in Massachusetts. And, it's always sort of a quiet. And last night I left, we're still doing virtual rehearsals, but, it was quiet out there again. I thought, you know what, sooner than later, we'll be back in there doing what we do, which is really exciting. Because Amy, then we get to see your smiling face in the building that much more often too. At least I hope so.
Really, every moment spent with me is golden, Ryan. You're correct.
That's right. I call them golden. There are golden moments because, as Mike likes to say, we're on Golden Pond or whatever it is. I don't know. Anyway, we've got a wonderful show for you tonight. We'll bring our guest in just a minute, Johanna Danaher, who is the director of Talent Pipeline at Pfizer, a company you may have heard of, but also a fabulous chorus parent and a member of our board of directors, a very active member of the board of directors who's also been very active in our community. And we'd love to introduce Johanna and learn a little bit more about her in just a minute. But before we bring her into this fabulous conversation, I once again like to send all of our thanks to the fine folks at the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. We love you all up there in Providence, and we love the arts community across our state. RISCA has done amazing things and kept us all going with so many resources over the past year. Also, thanks to everyone in the Rhode Island Commerce office up there who has funded our programs this year as well, and all the guidance we've gotten from Commerce, the Department of Health, and even through both administrations of both Governor Raimondo and Governor McKee. It's been really wonderful for the resources you've helped us go, and we're still going thanks to your support. But also huge thanks to all of our friends at the Blue Mitten Thrift Shop, the shop that helps Westerly sing. They just made an enormous gift to the chorus of Westerly, an enormous, I mean, we're not buying a new building, but a hugely impactful gift that is going to help make our summer programs possible. If we can pull off Summer Pops in September, that'll help set Pops be possible. So to all of the folks who donated to the Blue Mitten, bought stuff there, and to their fine staff and volunteers, thank you for all year long of working so very hard on behalf of the chorus of Westerly. Now, so here we go, Amy and Mike. We have just a fabulous guest with us today. And we just introduced her a little bit a second ago, but Ben, let's welcome to the Community Chorus Show, Johanna Danaher. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you? Great to be here.
Great to see you. You look good. The camera setup all worked. We worked through our technical stuff before. Thanks for spending some time with us today. I know you're always very busy. These days, are you working mostly from home, or do you go into the office? How is life for you these days?
So life for me is not all that different than it was 2 years ago, right? Or a year and a half ago, because I've been a virtual worker for most of my career over the past 10 years, other than the fact that I would have to travel into our offices, whether they were in New York or other parts of the country, or do recruitment events. But I've been working from home for a very long time. So this setup is pretty normal and pretty regular for me. Although I actually have found it a lot harder than I expected, from the whole point that I have not left my home much in a year and a half. And I used to travel quite a bit. So while, being here at home is normal, not seeing anyone is not normal.
Yes, I think that's a great, so very recently, or about a month or so ago, I started coaching baseball with my sons on 2 teams. And I realized within the first 2 or 3 practices that I interacted personally with more human beings at 2 practices than I had for the previous year in total, it felt like. And you do realize, like, you can work from home, or you can do the remote, or the Zooms and all of this. Really, I mean, God bless having this technology that we can see each other. But there is something when you finally realize, boy, like, I really haven't had a lot of human contact outside of that small circle you might have. So when you were in a normal time, how often were you traveling to New York or traveling around?
So it would range, right, depending upon the projects that I had going on. But when I was doing full cycle recruiting, I was traveling once a week. When I was, doing more office-based work, it was, anywhere from every other week to once a month. Yeah. But it did range quite a bit. So I was away quite a bit.
I always, so we're going to get into more of what Hannah does and how that all came to be in just a minute here. But one thing I always love to hear about your stories is you wrote Amtrak a lot. And we might have to come to that in a little bit later, because there was a period of time before I worked for the chorus, which now has been 12 years, believe it or not. I know, and that's scary. Actually, my son asked me that last night, and it's like, I don't know.
Approved.
But I used to live outside of Boston, and I was a member of the chorus board for a period of time, and I would take Amtrak back and forth to meetings, and I became very good friends with the gentleman in the bar car. And there was some nights where I was chasing the train down the tracks, because we were enjoying maybe a beverage before the train would leave. And so I appreciate anyone who rides Amtrak like that and enjoys it. But before we go too far into your career, so you are a native of New York, of Queens, but you have been in our neck of the woods for a while now. And maybe instead of going right back to the beginning, can you tell me, and your daughter Katie sings with us, has a wonderful voice, just an outstanding human being, and you give us a lot of service. At our gala, I think it was 2 years ago now, I'm losing track of how many years it's been for things, but 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was, you got up to all of our group there, and you basically told a story of how your family was sort of introduced to the chorus of Westerly. And I would love, if you can, I would love for you to tell that again, because it's such a beautiful story, and I feel like it sets everything else up. So could you tell us that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it actually does go right back to the beginning, right, of me growing up in New York. I grew up as you said, in Queens, but a huge part of my life was always in the arts. My mom worked for an organization that was really focused on arts and education in New York. I was always either at a gallery I was at a show, I was at the theater, I was at the Metropolitan Museum or going to the opera, or Sundays would find us in Soho, right? We were always surrounded by art. So it was such a formation for me. It really helped set me up as to who I am as an adult now, right? But I didn't realize it at the time, because it was normal. It was what you did every day,
Right.
It was the things that were around us on a regular basis. And it wasn't until Katie was born and she was, getting into the preschool, kindergarten age range that I realized that the arts connection, even though it wasn't what I do professionally, was such a form of me that I wanted the same thing for Katie. And I didn't know even where to look, right? Because it hadn't been a part of my life and sort of my thinking until that moment. And we pursued theater classes, and she did dance for 9 years, and she played piano and took flute in her school band. She plays guitar. She pursued so many different things. She did theater camps and everything. It was all wonderful. All of these programs were fantastic. I had thought that because we were sort of halfway between Boston and New York, I'd have to leave to go find all of the things that I was looking for. And I was wrong. And all of, having our opportunity to experience all of those different types of programs showed me that there is such a rich, robust art and music and theater program in this community. But it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, right? We didn't find a home in any of those places until the chorus. And that was something that was so interesting for all of us. It was actually when Katie was in preschool, we met a mom who is a singer and whose other 3 children are also singers with the chorus of Westerly. And she and I we started becoming friends through just pickups and drop-offs at daycare, right? It was a few years later, the kids were then in elementary school, and we started reconnecting because they were in swim class together. And I was telling, her about all, sort of what I was missing. And she said, you got to come over to the chorus because my kids just joined. This would be a fantastic fit for you. So we're like, okay. And we checked it out, but we had other commitments during the rehearsal time. So we couldn't make that jump right into the commitment that we needed to make at the time. So we said, you know what? We're going to check it out. We're going to get subscription. We're going to come to the shows. We're going to really understand what this organization is all about. So it was the November concert. I think she was 7, maybe 8 years old at the time. I think maybe 8. We're all dressed up and we go sit up in the balcony on the Saturday evening performance. And we didn't know what to expect, but we sat there. She could barely see over the railing, right? And we're sitting in Mr. Ken's seats, right? I think.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't even know anything about this. We were like right there.
You were in the royal box, huh? That's pretty good.
Now I'm going, wow, that's where we sat for the first
time.
Well
played.
Oh, kind of weird. But we're all in on it. And at one point there was this real lull in the music. The soprano soloist had just finished singing an amazing piece. And Katie leans over to me and looks at me and says, wow, in a really loud whisper, I need to be here, Mom. And at that moment I was like, yeah, I think you do, and we went downstairs afterwards to the lower, community thing, or maybe it was a Sunday event. I can't remember, but there was the reception that was happening afterwards. Right. And so we went down there and all of a sudden it was like, we were just embraced by hundreds of people that we didn't know. So we were just like, okay, this is really cool. This is a great group of people. And that's where it started. And we haven't looked back once. And it's just been an amazing journey to be on.
How old is Katie now? She
is 15 years old.
She's 15.
Yeah.
She's 15. I mean, I love that story for a couple of reasons. I love that story because, who was it? Was it the Grandages? Is that who you were?
The Grandages, yes.
So I love that story because there's a few reasons I love that story. One, because the Grandages got, to come over and check this out. And they were, for slightly before you, sort of a new family into the chorus who really had no long history with us. And they were one of the first families that sort of connected in with us when Andrew Howell took over.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I always look at it as like, these were little seeds we had planted, and then, they say, come check it out. Secondly, I wanted to like give you a high five for the computer because you got a subscription right away. I was like, yeah, there you go. Please buy subscriptions, arts organizations. But I also love too that just, I don't know if you picked them out or whomever was working at the box office at the time sold it to you, but the fact that you were sitting in George Kent's seats, which you weren't sitting with George Kent, but you're in the George Kent Performance Hall and you got this little one that can barely see over and you're watching a classical concert. It's like, we couldn't have framed that better for you if we were like as a recruiting tool. And the fact that she had that loud, audible whisper, I wish you could have seen other people up in the balcony, because sometimes people are like, why are they making noise? But if somebody was looking, it might have been like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like you can see that connection that's happening there.
Yeah, it was just that life-changing moment. It really was.
Did she start singing right after that, or did you wait till the next?
We waited to the next year to join in that September. So it was a little bit, but we kept coming to the concerts and talking with Aura about everything too, and hearing more and more about it. So when she did join, it was this big sort of anticipatory moment, right? It was that she was like so excited to be a part of it when it started off and kicked off, and we, as I said, she is so happy to be back in the hall. That was one of the first things we'd be driving on our Sunday drives, because that was like one of the only things that we were doing during COVID. We would get in the car, the three of us pack in and just drive scenically throughout the communities. And we'd always pass through the parking lot just to look at the hall.
That warms my heart just to hear that. And then now Katie has been working with Tom Foley at the band room and doing music over there. We love Tom. But Katie was also, so last year, one of the things we made available was sort of sample vocal lessons with some of our soloists. And Katie who did she work with? She worked with Margot?
With Margot, yes. For about 9 months with Margot. She was, working with her virtually one-on-one for hour-long lessons, and it was incredible. And one of the things that's so exciting is Katie's a freshman in high school this year, and she joined the Stonington High School the Stonington High School concert choir class.
Oh,
and she's in their keynotes program, which is program after school. And as part of that, she was also preparing for the States and all of that stuff. And so she auditioned in virtually for States through that program, and has been doing a wonderful job there as well. So it's been quite a bit of continuing to keep the music alive even in a virtual environment. You guys have been doing amazing keeping these kids engaged, and just being able to still have that has been very, very critically important for her mental health, and quite frankly ours, because music is such an important way for me to sort of reset, refuel, and refocus my energy, right? And really think about, how do I need to take a break? Because you can get sucked into so much or go very, very deep in ways that you don't want to go, right? And music is a way that I'm actually able to really pull myself back.
Well, it's just, I thank you for sharing all that, because I just love that. And I want to kind of cap that on her lessons with, so Margot Rude sang with us most recently with the B minor mass, and went with us to Germany as a member. Was a member of the Lorelei Ensemble. She's not anymore, but she's still singing with the Blue Heron and some group. She's down in Virginia now in that area. But Margot let me know that we knew this was happening on the same side. And I've heard Katie sing, not Andrew, so I'm not listening to all the time. But when we put together The Little Things, the music video, and I know she'd been working on all this stuff there. We put it out there, and my sister watched it, and my sister was very impressed with all of the kids. But she called me up, and she asked me, she said, "Who is the young woman who sounds like she should be starring in a Disney musical?" And I was going through them all. I was like, "No, which one?" It was Katie. And then I went back and looked. I was like, her voice is like just. And this was a compliment too. Of like, it was just like she's ready. Like they were all those kids in that video when we put that together. It was just dynamite. But Katie has a presence about her too, that there have been times I've watched her on the risers, or she's not shy either, at least with our vocalists and musicians there. And I've thought to myself, I wouldn't be so surprised someday if she's up there, or she's doing something like this, or I'm introducing her for something else. And whether or not that's her path or not, I don't know, but it makes, going back to that story of her first being there, if someday she's the wow for some other little girl up in the balcony there, what a neat story. Even if it's not about singing, even if she's just coming back and speaking about whatever she's doing in her career, it just was a nice, to me, it's just this nice way of showing how, you know, the chorus is has a lot of folks with very long histories, long family histories. Amy, you have like the longest family history, quite frankly. But it's neat how we hear about people who didn't have a direct connection come in and get sort of enveloped in this, and it it doesn't just change their life; it changes their entire family's life.
It has, absolutely. Yeah. And I would just building on that. Some of my closest friends are people I've met through this organization. You know, I mean, really, it's like the people I call my best friends, those that I get together with now that we're able to get together in person again, are all people I've met through chorus, whether it's through, you know, Aura at first or through others.
Yeah,
that's who they are. And that's so it's just, and it's not necessarily all people who are, you know, singers themselves. They're associated through, like I've met, you know, one of my closest friends through Aura and through another friend. So it's like, it has that ripple effect, right? In terms of, you know, bringing people together. And I think the whole mission about nourishing the souls of the community, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Right. And it has done that in so many ways. My daughter is a singer. She's getting incredible, you know, exposure, experience through the chorus. She's built self-esteem, you know, she's built her ability to truly, be herself, right? You know, and that's something we all struggle with, right? Is that sort of authenticity, right? And being authentic and really bringing our authentic selves to anything that we do. That can be a really hard thing to do. But what you're teaching these children is that that's what they have to do, while at the same time being part of a whole, right? So it's this whole idea of still being your authentic self while contributing to the soul of the organization that you're a part of. Yeah.
I thank you for phrasing that perfectly. I mean, I feel like the three of us feel that way. I mean, like you talk about you're my best friends right here, you know, I'm missing a couple of them today, but like, you know, it is, you can be yourself, and you know, it is about the whole of the project, but you can be yourself. And it has just been, I love a lot of the work Andrew's been doing. Really, it's always been about the music and the community part of it too. But really now taking it to that next step of how do we make more and more people's lives, I don't know what the word is, I would say feel good, but like understand that there is that connection, and it's just that. You just described it brilliantly. So for board scores, bravo. That's the. I'd send in my donations to you right away. And if you want to make a donation, you can send it to 119 High Street, Westerly, Rhode Island. Mike, Amy, do you have any questions? I don't want to steal any thunder here.
No, I thought I would add, like, that, build on that, you know, one of the things, the gifts the chorus gives children is that they get to be important and needed right now. They don't have to wait. You're not practicing to be important and needed. You're important and needed right now at 8, at 9, 10, all the way up through the rest of high school. And I think that is such a huge gift.
Yeah, and I think that you said that so beautifully, Amy, right? It is about they're important, but they are also building relationships, generations, right? So they're there at 7, 8 years old, and they're singing with individuals who are 60, 70, maybe even older, right? And that whole opportunity to have that exposure, to feel that they are contributing as a valuable and critical portion of this organization at the same stage as others, as adults, is a really wonderful thing. You know, it gives them confidence, it gives them self-assurance, but it also gives them skills in terms of really how to operate in this kind of very diverse community that we're building together.
Yeah, I've noticed too, more and more, that the kids that we have now, and the teenagers in particular, especially over this past year or so, where we've had to confront a lot of issues. They push us back. They push us to, you know, the best way to describe this. They make us confront questions a lot that we might not have seen. And I feel like the chorus, at least in the last 15, 20 or so years, this has been, we've seen, well, no, not at least, we've seen more change of the chorus in the last 15 years than at any point in its history, for logical reasons. We have a transition in the middle of all that. But the kids have really, you can tell almost after a year or two, they take such ownership in it, that they become comfortable telling us how they're feeling or working with us. I mean, I feel like our teenagers are vital to, I always say they're vital to our future, but it's because when we interact with them now, we can start to understand they are our future. We can hear them when they're pointing something out, or where they're complaining about something, when they're just bringing something or want to talk about it. It's almost like bringing it into our minds so we can stay fresh and move forward and keep going. And they do have this feeling. It's not just an activity. I'm going to do it on Monday afternoon for 3 months or 6 weeks and then be done with it, turn the page. They're thinking, for a lot of them, they think, well, I'm going to get to do this when I'm older, or this, I'd like to do this, or I know where every single teenager wants to go on tour someday, for example, or I know like what things they really hate. I mean, you've seen it around the office. What's interesting is that when in normal times, the older kids in particular have such comfort, maybe a little too much comfort sometimes, that they'll just come into our offices. And there was one time I walked into my office and there was one sitting behind my desk, one over here. They were practically having their own staff meeting in there. But it wasn't all one set of friends either. It was just a bunch of them kind of mishmashed together. And it's really cool. I mean, it's really, really cool.
It's awesome to see. It really is. Just as a parent, it's fantastic. And there's a little bit of jealousy there, I gotta say. I'm like, I really want to have that too. So, but that's what I found, through, some of the programs and work that I've been doing. But it's like, yeah, I want that.
Well, to defend you here, or to put something up, what we don't have right now is we don't have concerts. And one thing that the public doesn't often see is that there are many parents who come in on the weekends when everyone is singing on the risers, and we'll have some crazy tasks for them to do, stuff 1,200 programs, or prepare the reception beforehand, or maybe it's just, sometimes we'll call you in for a work project and there'll be nothing there, and we're having a glass of wine or something downstairs. That kind of, I feel like the chorus not singing and performing has taken that away from all of you, the singers. But on the other side of things, it's taken away from us building that sort of camaraderie too, of, just this network that happens behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Michael, I think of your late father-in-law, Ned, who was a huge part of that. Like we had our own little non-performance thing happening all of the time. And there's been so many people behind the scenes who've been parents, spouses, who have been there to make it go while upstairs is happening. So hopefully we get back to concerts so we can get back to that too, because it's so important.
I just miss cooking Pam's food. That's what I miss. I just want to cook Pam's food again.
Well, we can, in fact, you never know, because it could be Pam's birthday today. So if it is Pam's birthday, it could be. You never know. It's Pam's. Happy birthday, Pam. Oh, you knew we'd get in there somewhere. All right, let's go back a little bit here. So I want to know how Johanna from Queens ends up in Maine with a degree in zoology, ends up as the director of talent at a giant pharmaceutical company. How in goodness name does that happen?
It's been a journey. It's actually it's a really cool journey. So I always wanted to be a marine biologist, right? I had my heart set on that since I watched some TV show on PBS when I was like 9 and wanted to talk to dolphins. So that was what I was going for. I totally wanted that. Went to college in Maine, absolutely loved it because I was out of New York. I was like, I am done with being in the city. I was just like, I needed to be, much more in the country. We had been spending our summers in Maine. It really,
Maine's much more opposite than Queens.
Very much so.
That, yes.
Yeah, a little bit of transition that I had to go through there. But I loved it. It was awesome. And, I spent my whole college career up there and got my undergrad in, as you say, zoology. But I think I was the only person that ever graduated with a bachelor's of arts degree in zoology. Because I was a junior and I was doing some, bench research, some field research, and I loved that. But I really did not like the analysis portion of it when I had to be back at the computer counting numbers and doing all of that stuff. I was like, I need people. I need to be out. I need, other stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll get my minor in public relations and mass media. So I did that. And that was how I got the BA, right? And I had this whole next trajectory that I was going to go into grant writing, right? And scientific writing. That didn't happen. But that's what I was thinking of. So I moved back to New York, spent 2 years there, kind of doing what is now termed very formally gig economy work. Basically, I worked for temp agencies and would go from job to job in business to business, organization to organization. It was awesome because I could take a vacation anytime I wanted to. And I could go anywhere I wanted to. And I got so much exposure to so many different kinds of organizations. And I I was in a law firm, I was in a PR firm, and then I fell into HR in a proxy firm on Wall Street, actually. And I started there, but then moved into their teleservices business. So I did HR for those telemarketing firms that sold you guys credit cards like 25 years ago. So that was me. And I was there for about a year and a half. And then my best friend got married in India. And at the time, so I quit and went to India, but decided that if I was going to go to India, I might as well stop in Europe and backpack across Europe for a while on my way and stay in youth hostels. So I did that.
But on your way to India, you backpacked across Europe to get to India?
On my way to India. Yeah.
That's a heck of a commute.
A little crazy, but I had
It's longer than walking up to New York.
I was like, I got to see the world. I had an uncle that was living in London at the time, and then we had family friends in Amsterdam. So it was right around Christmas of '96. I'm old. And so I just sort of did that. I would say that it was awesome. I was alone. I had no reservations. I had no idea where I was staying except for those two families I had planned, but there were 2 months that I had no clue. And I stayed in youth hostels. It was really fascinating. I would say really bad plan was Vienna and going to a casino in a country where you don't speak the language. Not a good plan because I lost all of my cash money.
I didn't know there were casinos in Vienna.
I didn't either. I found the only one. I only had like $100 of cash, so it wasn't really like a lot of money. But at the time, $100 was a lot of money.
Right.
So I had to kind of rethink my approach from that point forward and call home to see if they could send me some emergency money.
I lost my money in a Viennese casino. I just don't think I've ever heard that before. But
so it was interesting. But that was a life lesson, right? So I told my daughter that story. I'm like, don't ever do this. And then I got to India. We did the whole, wedding. I was there for a month and then came back. And from there, I had, at that point in time, having sort of been around Europe, really thinking and experiencing sort of different ways of living, different cultures, I had no idea what I wanted to do anymore with my life and whether or not I really wanted to be in the business world or if I wanted to, go back to science or if I wanted to pursue my career as a line chef in a restaurant, I would do that. So I went back to Maine and I went back to where we lived in the summertime and I worked in a bookstore for 2 years and I worked at a restaurant that I had been doing my summer jobs at through all of college. And I did that for about 2 years. And that's when I met my husband, who is originally from Connecticut. And his parents had bought a lobster boat that they got an old working lobster boat that they were transforming into a boat that they could live on. And so he would drive up from Hartford every weekend to work on their boat. And that's how we met. And the story is, yeah. Then we moved
here. By the way, you were in marine biology, but what kind of restaurant did you work at in Maine?
I worked at a seafood restaurant. So my job in the morning was I would go and I would raise 10,000 baby blue lobsters. And we were studying the migratory rates of lobsters in you could do that when you have little blue ones, right? Because they're genetically blue and they look different. And so we released millions of them into the sound. And 7 years later, we're looking to see where they all ended up, if there was a higher percentage of them caught in traps. But my job for those couple of summers was to feed these little tiny baby blue lobsters with an eyedropper. And like, you know, each one got a little brine shrimp because they had to live in their own little tubes, right? And so I would leave that job in the morning and, you know, have like my lunch and go cook lobsters at the seafood restaurant all afternoon and evening. It was like the circle of life was happening to me daily. So,
You think they knew? Little one?
oh, I'm sure they were. They gave me that dirty look with those little eyes and their tentacles every time.
I brought you into this world. I'm going to take you out too.
Exactly. I'm like, ooh.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, you're right. Keeping the ecosystem alive, helping the lobster fishing industry, which is, of course, a Westerly trend too. Wow.
It took me about 10 years to be able to eat lobster again, I will tell you.
I was going to say, did you eat it? That's the next question. Could you then eat lobster? But no.
No. Not after you were picking, because you would cook. We have to not only cook them for people to eat, but we also had to cook and pick for lobster rolls. And, you know, picking 100 pounds of lobster a day is just not something you would want to then go consume yourself. So it took me a while.
Yeah, I bet.
But everybody likes me to be the one to, you know, pick their lobster when we go out for dinner. And I'm like,
well, I mean, you are a lobster expert, but I didn't know. I want to come back to continuing your path here, but you released blue lobsters. I just thought blue lobsters were just like a thing they found, but we mated 2 blue lobsters to have all these little babies. Wow.
You can 3D print them now, Ryan.
You can 3D print them. They're like Skittles now. You can have like a lime green one or a yellow one or a purple one. I don't know, purple lobster. Anyway, so you found your way to Connecticut, and you're doing the. So, tell us a little bit about working now with this enormous corporation that you're working for and being in charge of talent.
Yeah, so it's an amazing journey there, right? So right now my focus is on our own, how we grow our employees, right? So making sure that we're providing equal opportunity for every colleague to be able to grow in their careers. And my own journey has been exactly sort of that, right? It's one where I've grown through the organization. I actually started in a temporary role with the organization when I first came down, going back to that sort of gig worker that I was familiar with. And that moved into a full-time role pretty quickly, where I was involved in university relations and student employment. So I managed all of our summer internship programs and did a lot of college recruiting. And that moved into learning how to build, a brand to tell people what we stood for, right? You know, all the things that you guys do in terms of building the brand of the chorus. So I did that, and then I moved into working on, culture work and communications work for employees. And now I'm in this area where I'm able to really think about how do we create opportunities for people to continue to grow themselves in a way that allows us to really embrace this idea that growth happens through the experiences that we have, right? So we grow in every experience and every opportunity to have a conversation and every project that we work on. It's a growth moment. And so if we're embracing that growth mindset, we're really, learning from the things that didn't go so well, building on the things that did go really well, and being able to continue to grow and progress ourselves. So even my own journey did not follow a pathway. You can see I have this little screen behind me, right? Because, I have to have a screen to hide all the mess. But my screen, there you go. But my screen, I deliberately got this one because it has like little arrows and pathways, right? And so you can go any which way you want, right? If you think about how you're growing, it's not a traditional like path up a ladder like you've always heard about in the past. And my journey has never been that. It's always been moving from different place to different place and pursuing different and new experiences that have given me this broad perspective that allows me to deliver on great work for great people. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been something where I'm always learning and it's amazing, right? And that's something that I think is such a life skill, and sometimes it's so hard to recognize that our experiences are profoundly critical for our growth, right? And there's all the sort of HR speak that's out there that says it's called the 70-20-10 rule or something like that, right? Where 70% of your growth happens through the experiences that you have. 20% happens through the exposure to others, right? Or learning from others. And then 20% happens through, real formal learning programs. So it's really this whole idea that the experiences that we create, that we experience, that we have enable our growth. And I think that connects back to some of the things that you all do in the chorus, right? And create experiences for not only the youth, but for everyone through the tours that you've been doing, through the exposure to different types of music, through the soloists coming in, through some of the professional organizations that have come in to perform for us, right? We've created so many different experiences for people to actually learn and grow.
Mm. Do you find when you're bringing in new younger talent right out of school, what I feel like I hear more about lately is every kid going off to college. Oh, I'm going to major in this and I'm going to do that. Be like, you have to. I mean, they're already working out this like life plan. They've done this and that. Do you find? I mean, you're working essentially in the sciences, and maybe I'm throwing everyone into the wrong path here, but I often find that a lot of the younger students who are in the sciences, they do sort of already have in their head like, this is going to be my career.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that is the case when they come out of school? And not to say you have to break them of that, or is it? I mean, I often find my own experiences once they've gone through college in particular, sometimes they've understood like, yeah, I'm going to go whatever path this happens. But is that something that you find you're having to deal with a lot with younger folks entering the workforce, or?
I don't think I would say that I would see any necessarily younger force, not younger force. I think so my answer, I guess, would be yes and, right? So it really depends upon the role and the aspiration of the person, right? So in some people's cases, they may want to be a deep specialist in an area of expertise, whether that's the sciences, whether that's, business or, another place, and that's what somebody is, aspiring to do. But gaining new experiences broadens our perspective. Right. Yeah. It gives us that opportunity. I would have never, ever have thought that I would ever move out of traditional recruiting into working on culture. That was never something that I would even think about. Right. Mm-hmm. And it happened, and it was awesome, and it was fantastic. And I grew tremendously during that period of time. I had some amazing leaders that I worked for who I'm still friends with on Facebook. And I still go back to some of the things I learned from them and apply them in the work that I'm doing today. Right. So I think the thing that we often talk about, and that you hear all the time, not at my company, just in general, right? If you're doing any sort of career planning dialogue, it's up is not the only way, right? Is a catchphrase, or you have to think about your career as a lattice as opposed to a ladder. All of those things are very, very true. And I think that if we continue to talk to individuals who are pursuing their future careers, is look for opportunity, right? And don't say, take a risk. Taking a risk is always going to come with a reward, right? But it is a risk. You have to have the courage to take that risk, but there's so much more opportunity there. And that's not to say that the risk may be, I'm focused and I want to be in arts, or I want to be in science, or I want to be in HR, and I want to be the best me that I can be. That's great too. And there are experiences that you want to bring into that tool set that you have to be able to be and continue to grow and be successful.
Right, Amy? I don't want to get any.
No, I think, I can think about in my own life. I've been a teacher for 18 years, and I've had 2 student teachers, and both of those experiences were, I think, tremendous, like as much for them as it was for me, a time of growth. I learned so much from being a cooperating teacher. So I would definitely go that.
Do you think it's funny when you're talking too about you never thought you'd be working on culture, because I think I don't know. I mean, maybe this has been thinking about the culture within a business is a thing now, but I don't really feel like it was much of a thing 15, 20 years ago. I mean, it was there, but is this the bigger trend that you're seeing, that lots of larger corporations are really focusing on the culture of the corporation now? And I ask this with a level of ignorance because I've worked, my professional career has been completely in the arts, but it's been in higher ed, and it's been in a very small organization of which the culture has been the chorus. So I'm curious, is what you're doing, are you seeing it across similar companies, big sizes, little sizes? How is it? How do you see it in other places?
Yeah, so I mean, just based on my own sort of research, right, and reading, culture is very important to any organization, right? It's the culture that we create together, right? So it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily, and depending upon the organization, it may be a focus initiative for a period of time. Or it may not be, right? It really depends upon what the needs of any particular organization are. But ultimately, it is the experience that we're creating collectively as you know, a group of people who are working together towards one goal, right? So you want to make sure that experience is really driving the right outcomes, right, that you would want for your organization. So you know, that I think is really the most important component of it. When we talk about culture, it's what is that experience we are cultivating and creating together, and to what end? Why are we doing that? So if we think about that in any organization, school, business, you know, nonprofit, arts, whatever, there's always a goal that you're trying to achieve, right? You're trying to nurture the soul of our community, right, in so many different ways. And the culture that you create in that experience is one that's welcoming. It's one that is inclusive. It's one that enables people to be themselves, while at the same time learning how to collaborate and work together to deliver on something of beauty. So that, I think, is the most, when I think about, you know, culture and that big C word, right, culture, I really think of it as really the lowercase c and everything that we're doing together as a group, to make sure that we're aligned towards that one mission.
I like it. I think it's, I mean, I think it's, and at the end of the day, you're trying to take care of your employees here and here. You're trying to, which makes them better for what, and I think it's just so, I almost, do you feel, and we'll get to the lightning round in a second here, but do you feel that this past year and a half, I mean, obviously your company's been certainly very busy, but this past year and a half has been a time to enhance what you're doing, reflect on what you're doing? Has it set you back? How has having to deal with the shutdowns, the COVIDs and all of this, how has it impacted your work?
So I think that it's actually, personally, it's made me much more reflective on the relationships that I have, right, in place with the people that I work with, and really not about the relationship in terms of the work that has to get done. I mean, that's absolutely critically important, but about the person and who the person is, and really trying to think about this idea, right, of empathy, right, is so critical, and putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, right? So for organizations that have, you know, a purpose that they're serving their end constituents, you have to have that ability to put yourself in your customer, your patient, your listener shoes. And that's a skill that is difficult sometimes, right? And it's something that when I look at just what's happening around us, and I look at, you know, what our schools are doing, and Amy, I know that you're doing this all the time with your students. It's really teaching people about, what do we mean by when we need to put on the shoes of someone else, or walk in their shoes, or understand their lived experiences. It really is about the fact that I need to listen a heck of a lot more, and I have to listen to really understand, right? I can't imagine what somebody else's experience this past year has been. I only know what my experience has been. But so I could project my experience onto them and judge their experience, or I could listen and understand that their experience was very different than mine. And I think that applies to everything I do at work, right? You know, it's I have to think about the fact, and it's this wonderful little phrase, right, that said that I see all the time. It's actually my back screen on my computer. It's like this big storm, and it's a whole bunch of, you know, boats in the storm, and it just says, we are all in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. Some of us are in a sinking dinghy. Some of us are on a cruise ship. Others of us are on a sailboat that's in the eye of the storm and it's really calm. And others are, you know, that lobster boat from The Perfect Storm that's like in a, like, you know,
Going down, yeah.
Right. So it's that moment, right? We have to do that. And so that's what I've learned from this year. And I think that I see a lot of organizations, academic, community focused, and business focused, really putting an emphasis on that idea of the fact that we care for our employees, we care for our constituents, we care for our people, right? And it has to be that people-centric approach. And we also have to really think about the empathy component of it.
That's a great answer. Mike, Amy, do you have anything else before we go to the lightning round? You two ready for the Hannah? Thank you. You ready for the lightning round?
No, but sure, bring it on.
All right, then. Let the storm is brewing. All right, this just works really easy. You just think of whatever comes into your head right away. If you don't have an answer, you can make it up, or you could just say pass, or we'll answer it for you. We'll go back and forth between Mike and Amy and I'll have a couple questions until we run out. Then we'll start a fake timer, which means absolutely nothing at all. There's no prizes if you win.
Kind of like, whose line is it anyway?
Correct. All right, we're going to start with you, Amy. Go ahead.
Okay, what's been your comfort food during this pandemic?
Well, I'm gluten-free, so basically nothing. But gluten-free pizza with pepperoni.
Sounds good. Mike.
What's your favorite chorus volunteer job?
Ooh, stuffing the programs because I get to have a glass of wine with Ryan.
Hey, there you go. What is your go-to snack on Amtrak, or beverage, or both?
Well, you know that this is Skittles and wine. So.
I do. Skittles and wine.
Skittles and wine. White wine.
White wine. Amy.
Okay, so speaking of Amtrak, as an experienced traveler, what's a travel tip you have for us less experienced travelers?
Ooh, so if you're in New York or Boston, find the red cap. They will bring your luggage to the train for you.
I have to note that down there. Mike, do you have another one?
Yeah, I'm going back to food. So back at that college seafood restaurant job, what was your go-to? I'm going to go graze on something on the menu while I'm working. What do you eat?
That would be fried clams, my absolute favorite, but now I can't eat them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, my next one is favorite New England vacation destination.
Point Sebago.
Point Sebago, there you go.
Right in your
right near my father-in-law up there. Yeah. We're Brandy Pond. We're a little Naples that way. Okay, Amy, do you have another one?
Yeah. So I know that we're generationally connected. So I want to know, what was your favorite part about 90s fashion?
Ooh, well, I was goth at a particular period of time in the 90s. Yeah.
Why didn't we find those pictures? I got to dig deeper.
Well, my first picture ever, the most embarrassing one, my first picture at the Eiffel Tower is me on a Catholic school girls trip wearing a Appetite for Destruction t-shirt and black nail polish.
Wait, that was on the Eiffel Tower?
Uh-huh. And and in front of the Mona Lisa. Yeah, that one's
I'm sorry. The chorus is eventually going to get to France, probably now in 2023. But we're recreating that.
Yeah, we are. I've already told the kids.
Like, come on, like,
we're gonna do that.
I mean, that we can have a whole show on that afterwards. There, that's amazing. That's amazing. Michael, do you have another question?
Yeah. So you talked about music and using it as maybe during work or as a break from work. What is your go-to first piece that comes to mind?
Vivaldi, Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, you can't say France now. If the chorus could tour anywhere in the world, where should we go? But you can't say France because we're already playing.
Tobago.
Say France.
Not Point Sebago either. We're not going to Point
Come
Sebago.
on.
We can go to
I
Point Sebago.
think we should go to Brazil.
Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, it's funny because
Wow.
there is actually Argentina in particular and Colombia, lots of great halls down there. I know that sounds strange.
South America, definitely.
South America
I think
would be
South America
amazing.
would be really cool.
All right, Amy, do you have any more, or are you good?
Let me check my list. What's your favorite place to go in New York City?
Ooh, that
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. So the Met, I would have to just go back to the Met. I love the Met, both the Opera House and the museum, but really it would be the museum at Christmas time in particular.
That's what I was going to ask you. What's the best cultural activity in New York City? But maybe what's the secret cultural activity in New York City, or place that people don't normally go to that you should really check out when we can? It can't be Broadway.
No,
That's not secret.
no, not secret.
Where should we go?
I just love all the street fairs. I think you see so much unique talent out in any of the street fairs. So it's like, you could always go to the big places, right? But
Right.
I think it's for me, it's always just kind of immersing myself into the community. So I like to try to find the communities section. So there's an awesome gluten-free restaurant that I absolutely love down in the village, not the village, it's the south of the village, Soho area. So I just love going down there because there's trees on the sidewalks, right? And it's like kind of a community feel. It feels a little bit more European, and there's always stuff happening, and there's always, music happening on the streets, or somebody, selling something in the flea market. So I think that's just where I would always go.
It's a great city. Mike, do you have anything more?
Well, one more. So since Andrew Howell's not on this week, if you could program one piece of music that the chorus should do that you haven't heard the chorus do, what would that be?
Anything from the Mamma Mia soundtrack.
All right.
Well, then you're in for a treat then, right? Do you know this? Am I breaking news? Oh, I might be breaking news.
Too late.
I can break it anyway. What the heck? So we have the rights to orchestrate 3 charts for Mamma Mia, which I'll leave that to be a secret. We paid for that, and John Tafone has already gone through. John Tafone is orchestrating. I'll let Andrew next time, or let him tell you, or we can bring John on. But we not only have the rights to 3 songs for Mamma Mia, we also have the rights to an orchestral choral version of YMCA.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we've been keeping John busy. Whenever we can have a Pops, he's doing a new one for Christmas Pops, the most wonderful time of the year. But there's some Mamma Mia in. You talk about the pipeline. In the Tafone pipeline, there's some Mamma Mia for Summer Pops coming. That would be quite a summer pop.
It's not a Mother's Day unless I watch Mamma Mia with Katie and cry for hours. So we did that a couple nights ago, of course, and now we have number 2 that we have to watch again, and they have said that they might have a number 3 coming out, so I'm very excited.
Do you know that ABBA right there? Yeah, ABBA did all that. We'll end it with this. So I'm not really as hip as the kids say, and particularly when I was 15, 16 years old, I was definitely not there. We were down in Orlando, Florida at Disney World. There was a Planet Hollywood there. And I was with Mr. Wicks. I was with the Stonington High School DECA program, the business program. And we were down there for nationals. And we went to Disney World that day. And then there was one of those dinners at Planet Hollywood. And when we were going in, there was a limo that pulled up. And a bunch of people got out and they walked into Planet Hollywood. Yay! We're looking at the license plate and it said ABBA. So music dork, I'm thinking, oh, it's ABBA form. Who's ABBA? I had no idea who just walked right into Planet Hollywood. I mean, I was like, what? And I was like, why are all these people taking pictures? I'm like, I don't know. And it was Planet Hollywood, so it was all splashy to begin with, right? So maybe it was just. But yeah, I guess ABBA was in Disney World and decided to go have dinner at Planet Hollywood. We just were off on the side, and everyone thought it was great, but that's all I knew. Later, I told that the story when I came back. I think my sister, pointed out maybe that was ABBA. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, could have been. Oh, that's pretty funny. Well,
Anyway.
You bet you beat me. I have the honor and privilege of having autographs of Right Said Fred. So
Wow.
Ah.
Yeah,
That must
really.
be worth nothing. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, I was cleaning out my basement during COVID and I found this old thing. And I'm like, really? I met them?
That's awesome.
All right, Ben, that's been the lightning round. Close it up. Go. Well, Hannah, we have just about a minute left here, and I just want to thank you again for joining us today. It's been really, really interesting and enjoyable. Also, your service on the chorus of Westerly Board of Directors has been phenomenal, and we are so grateful for all that you've given us. Is there anything you'd like to say before we say goodbye today?
I would say that the feeling is mutual, right? You know, I mean, as I said, throughout the conversation, my closest friends have come from this organization. It's transformed our family. It's enabled my daughter to find her voice and to be able to then share that. So I thank you for all of the opportunities, and I really cannot wait to get back to the hall. So
well, we are all there with you, and we can't. I mean, we get to see each other because we're having rehearsals now there, but it is weird not having everyone there. It's weird not having Amy sitting in my office the way we've done before, and get to hope to see Michael again soon there. It's just but thank you for all you've done, and I hope years from now Katie can host some sort of web talk show, not during a pandemic, but just because she can do it and swap some good stories there. So but you are right. I mean, Michael and Amy and all these other folks that you've met are as dear to me as anybody, and that, you know, Mike and I knew each other before the chorus, and we kind of came in together with it, but you know, I think we can both speak for this, is that, you know, we found Amy and everyone else like that, and we've been joined, you know, in heart, body, and mind for forever, and that's a wonderful thing, and that gives you a lot of hope.
it really does.
You really need it. So I'm glad Katie is having such wonderful experiences, and again, thank you. Michael, Amy, Hannah, thank you so much for everything, and we have a presentation coming up soon. Catherine Aaron is going to be talking a little bit about the Glorias throughout music, and a couple of more community chorus shows between now and the end of the academic year, if you will, and then we'll go into summer mode for a while, and we are working hard to see if we can pull off the summer pops in September. So we'll let you know. We'll keep working on it. But anyway, on behalf of Hannah, thank you very, very much for joining us. Amy Blanchette, Michael Freitas, and the Andrews, Howell and Ledestri, who haven't joined us today, but we'll be back soon. Thank you for the Community Chorus Show. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.